Start. Those financiers and railroad men who keep reiterating that the president is to blame for the stock market flurry or for what they assume to be the cause of it are talking foolishly and will gain nothing by such tactics. They attribute last week's break in stocks and the general disturbance of the market to the railroad agitation, which they say the president has fomented. They contend that distrust has been produced as to the future of railroad investment, and this is why there is difficulty in raising capital for needed extensions and improvements to increase their facilities. The men who talk in that way are either doing it without sincerity and for a purpose, or they take a shallow and superficial view of the situation which discredits their fitness for the responsible positions they hold. If what the president has said or done in his battle against railroad and other corporate abuses has contributed to a feeling of distrust which adversely affects the investment market, the fault lies back of him, for he has only attacked evils which need to be reformed, which never would be reformed without attack, and which, if left to take their course, would produce much worse consequence than any that his agitation has caused or is likely to cause. In the crusade, he has been doing his duty as he sees it and as the mass of the people see it, and he is not in the least likely to be deterred from persisting in it, nor will the people be scared out of giving him their support until these railroad and corporation magnates make up their minds to cooperate with him by observing the reasonable regulation and supervision of lawful authority. The contention that what the president has done in the way of establishing this regulation or of proposing further measures is the cause of the difficulty that railroads are having in raising new capital for enlarging their facilities comes either from insincerity or from lack of knowledge and judgment regarding the general financial situation. The demands of the railroads are very large, and for that reason their difficulty is conspicuous, but in kind it is the same that all industrial interests are having in raising new capital for the increase of their capacity, that commercial interests are having, and that states and cities are having in raising funds on their credit. It is not impairment of credit in these cases, but is lack of the available capital to meet all the demands. Commercial borrowers have to pay abnormally high rates, but their present profits enable them to do it, and they absorb a large share of the floating capital. All manner of loans command high rates in the street, not because the volume of currency or of money is restricted, but because the capital which money is the means of circulating is scarce. State and city bonds are impossible to float at the old rates for the same reason. A similar condition prevails abroad, and money rates are high in England and Germany on account of the large demand for capital in proportion to the supply. British consoles are selling at a price that is unprecedented in the last 40 years, not because confidence is shaken or British credit is impaired, but because other investments are so much more profitable than these with their fixed return. The plain fact of the matter is that the extension and activity of industrial and commercial enterprises in the last half dozen years, not only in this country but in Europe and in other developing parts of the world, have absorbed capital as fast as it has accumulated as a surplus over actual consumption, and the demand for it today for further expansion is greater than the supply. The inevitable result is a competition for what is available, which puts up rates and necessarily checks the expansion. Those who have an elastic business that is yielding large profits can draw most readily upon the supply because they can pay the advanced rates. A huge system of railroads which requires vast expenditures to be extended over considerable time before results can be realized from the new outlay cannot have its requirements met without paying for capital what others have to pay, and even then its demands are so great that they cannot be met at any price and must be curtailed for the present. That is why low rate bonds cannot be floated and new stocks will not be taken at a good price on the chance of a return dependent upon future earnings. The capital is simply not to be had for all these purposes, and that which must be had to keep things going as they are commands a high price. Here it is especially important to keep in mind the distinction between capital and money, which is apt to be lost in the confusion of thought caused by the varied use of the word money. Stop. Start.